Brandon and Hannah McNaughton. I think you guys are going to close this segment, and then we're going to get back to some music. And we've got a lot of beer to drink up, so and we're just going to keep playing the music. We'll say a few goodbyes in a little bit, but Brandon and Hannah, here we go.
All right, well, it's good to see everyone, and I just wanted to point something out if you haven't noticed it already. You notice how we all get up here, and what does Rob say? Get close to the microphone. Always advising, always coaching. It's so wonderful to see. And so wonderful to have known you, Rob, in many years. And we'll share a couple stories and try to be fast, although earlier we're like, we're going to be really fast because it's raining. And the last time I was at an outside event where it rained, I think it was our wedding. But there is this great Chinese proverb that the rain falls on the lap of a happy bride, and maybe today we can make happy psychologists. I don't know if tears are a good thing, Rob, in your work. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But, one thing I'd like to just kind of share about Rob before we get started is I love so much his questioning. Like, my background is in the sciences, and I've always been motivated and very excited about questions. And I think that's something about Rob that just stands out so much. And, I have this saying that usually the person or the man who has all the answers is the one that asks the most questions. And that's, I'll share some stories about that in a second. But I think that's you, Rob, and that's one thing I've loved getting to know you and hearing. And I think also it's why we're all here, right? It's probably a question Rob asked one of you or some engagement that led you to being here today.
Yeah, we were, it's funny, we were talking because I was asking Brandon, like, how did we even meet Rob? Like, I feel like we've known him forever, but also I couldn't figure it out. And then we realized it was at Zingerman's Coffee Shop, which following up from what Kemper said, we met Rob at Zingerman's, and whether it was 10, 15 or more years ago, I definitely remember talking to him 10 or so years ago when our kids were very tiny. They're now 18 and 20, so they were very full of energy at the time. That also might be a contributing factor to that might be the coffee beans that Zingerman's gave them every time that they came in to munch on as snacks. So we loved that, but we also loved seeing Rob, and he was always just so kind and just generous with his time and joyful. And when you're walking into a place where you have little loud kids, sometimes it can feel like, you wanting to shush them up. And he was just always so kind with them, but also with us. In that stage of our lives that we were in. We were young entrepreneurs, both starting our companies at the same time. And, Rob's questions were always so helpful, getting us to think about the things of why we're doing what we're doing was just so helpful and beneficial to us at that point in our lives.
And then more recently, so I have the great pleasure of being in one of the book clubs that Rob's in, and we're carpool buddies. And I remember the first time we talked about it, I thought, wow, I'm going to be in the car. Okay, just so you guys know where this is. So Scott Mers, if Scott is still here, he has a place about 15 minutes north of Chelsea. So it's out in the beautiful country, but probably from downtown Ann Arbor area, it's maybe like 45 minutes. So I'm like, 45 minutes with Rob. What am I going to talk about? Like, are we going to run out of topics? Is he going to get bored with me? Are we like, it's going to be silence? Is it going to be like, a scene out of a movie? What's going to happen? And, I feel like from the first moment we hopped in the car, it was just like full conversation there, full conversation back. And, and I remember telling Hannah, I'm like, it was such a pleasure, driving with Rob because he's like genuinely curious, right? He's genuinely asking questions about people, about knowledge, about concepts. And, to me, that's the greatest art of science is like its curiosity and creativity. And I think he has the heart of an empath and the mind of a scientist. And to me, that was just like so fun and so entertaining. And I remember, our books are all over the place, right? So we'll read about, explorers who, first to map Alaska to, modern topics and physics. And, we even read a book, not Hiroshima, but about the writings of Hiroshima, right? So it's kind of, this is a book club. So, it's all kinds of topics. And, I'm a physicist by training. And I remember one of the times on the way home, Rob, we're talking about this, and I'm Rob, in physics, we think about all the ways the world can end. It's like, that's just kind of what we think about. And Rob's like, well, what about, a comet hitting the Earth? And what about like, these black holes and all these things? And I'm like, yeah, there's a non-zero probability that could happen. And he's like, and you just have that in your mind, like, how do you go to bed at night? And how do you think about this? And, and it's just so true to just who Rob is. And we love that about you, Rob. And I think, it's also, again, why we're here. And it's that you ask those questions and you have that curiosity and care, I don't think for yourself, but for us, right? And Gandhi has this great quote that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in service to others.
Yeah, so we just want to thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts, as from young parents and young entrepreneurs who felt like, we were just trying to figure our place out in the world, to, where we are now and what you've done for everyone over the last 25 years in this community, but so much more than the 25 years. Just thank you so much for your kindness and your generosity, and it's so appreciated by all of us here.